great barbecue can be as simple as it's juicy and it's tender and it's well seasoned. Lockhart, it's the barbecue capital of Texas, as deemed by the legislature.
There's no place in America that has more barbecue per capita than we have right here in Lockhart.
They have the best barbecue in the world here in this city.
We were barbecue when barbecue wasn't cool.
There's even a tattoo shop. You select a certain barbecue-themed tattoo, you get a reduced price.
Pretty amazing just to meet everybody that come in from all over the world.
We've come all the way from the UK, 20 of us, just to come and try your barbecue.
Oh my goodness, it's a long way to come for lunch.
It's a town of 12 to 14,000, and it has 2 massive barbecue feuds. That's more than most towns have. Most towns don't even have one.
The twins, did they stir the pot?
I don't know how many billboards he has, but it's an astronomical amount of billboards.
Oh, that's a big old middle finger.
Rick moved the business out of the original building 1 year shy of 100 years.
All families have disagreements. It's just ours was widely known all over the world.
I'd rather have the family be all good and everything, but that's not the situation we're in no matter what we do.
It is the most anticipated food ranking out there that just about any publication does.
In Texas, it would be the Texas Monthly.
I'd rather be on Texas Monthly Top 50 than GQ's or Food and Wine Magazine's Top 50. That's the pinnacle of the barbecue rankings.
If you make the Texas Monthly Top 50 list, you'll see an impact the following day.
We get people who are hoping that they're on it, hoping that they're in the top 10, places that are pissed off they're not on it. Texas has the best barbecue in the country, so if you're the best in Texas, then you're the best barbecue joint in the nation. When Texas Monthly came out with the top 50 barbecue list in 1997, again in 2003, I mean, these are the places that were at the top of that list, Kreuz Market and Smitty's.
When you walk in, it's more or less like a step back into the 20s or 30s.
Every time I go into Kreuz Market, take a bite of one of those salty ribs and take a bite of raw avocado together, like that is a great bite right there.
We always get the question, well, how hot do you cook? We don't know. We have meat pens. Easier it goes, closer you are to getting done.
You're driving down from Austin into Lockhart, the first barbecue joint that you see is Terry Black's Barbecue.
We're traditional Central Texas barbecue, so it's all market style. You know, you order your sides first, and then you get to the cutting blocks, and you can get beef ribs, you know, brisket, pork ribs, sausage, turkey.
The first sign that you see is a sign for Black's Barbecue that tells you the only original Black's Barbecue.
We're the oldest barbecue joint in Texas, always owned by the same family. The Black family has always owned the original Blacks and always will.
Blacks, Terry Blacks, Kreuz and Smitty's all have a little intermingling in the family.
My grandfather had 3 children. The oldest was my Uncle Don. The middle was my father, Rick, and the youngest was mine.
Obviously with Terry Blacks, my dad and his brother Ken owns Blacks in Lockhart now. And then Smitty's, one of our cousins married Nina long ago.
Terry and Patty are cousins to my kids.
You have that mix of the legacy and the heritage of Texas barbecue, along with that more modern look at Texas barbecue with places like Barbs B Q. Barbs really symbolizes modern Texas barbecue and a new way of looking at barbecue.
Barbecue is very tough. Everyone has a passion for it. It comes down to the challenges of the physicality involved. That's where you kind of see people fall short from it. early mornings, late nights, 18-hour days of carrying 20-pound briskets, trimming the ribs, carrying heavy pods, loading the briskets on the smoker, opening those heavy doors.
And order the land.
Running back and forth, cutting service, which is 3 hours nonstop at the same time while making conversations with people. I don't know, maybe like 2 to 4 hours of sleep and then doing it all over again, maybe 1-2 days off. It's a whole show. I'm Chuck Charney-Chard, and this is Barbs B Q, my restaurant here in Lockhart, Texas. I was coming to Lockhart a lot because there was a lot of barbecue events. Everyone was really welcoming to me here. You walk around the square and it's just all these small business owners trying to make this little town fun and alive. Texas Monthly Festival 2021, I believe. We had a tent outside directly across this building. And I was just looking at it like, wow, that's such a cool building. I was just looking at it all day, like, wow, because it was closed, and I was like, maybe, I don't know. like it was just in the back of my head. I need to find out more about this building. 2 months later, Tober, the owner from Old Pal here, reached out to me and let me know that this was going to be available pretty soon. Sure enough, I drove from Fort Worth that day and jumped on it and tried to get the keys. I think this is the spot where Barbs B Q is going to find its home, and what more than it to be in the capital of barbecue in Texas and the whole world.
You know, whenever I go to Lockhart, coming from Austin, as soon as I drive in, I don't know if it's nostalgia or it's my hometown or whatever, but there's a sense of ease. You don't have to go on the highway. You don't have to go 65 miles an hour. Lockhart does have that small town feel. I mean, you can hear the football stadium on Friday nights.
Don't be combative with it. When you feel it, just let it flow. Let it go, okay? It's time to let this team go. Don't get to the wall and be cautious with it. You understand that? Yes, sir. Run through it. Run through it.
It's a unique feeling that, we have in Texas on Friday nights for football. I played varsity football. We practiced right out here on this field. This wasn't the official field yet, but it was used as a practice field. A lot of great memories with my teammates and coaches. Somebody's scoring. Lockhart Lions. Did we take the lead? I think we did. My name is Kent Black, and we're at the original Black's Barbecue in Lockhart, Texas.
I graduated from Lockhart High School in 1970. It was like Mayberry from the Andy Griffith Show in a good way. I was Opie. And everybody knew everybody, and nobody locked their doors. They didn't lock their cars. It was a different time back in the 60s. And if I stayed out too late sometimes, usually one of the neighbors would call my mother and let her know what I was doing. So there was no hiding in this little town. I started selling snow cones on the street right out here when I was 6 years old. It was a great time to spend the summers out there. I think I sold snow cones for 25 cents. My grandparents lived right here on this block. I would go between their house right here over the courthouse. It was a good time to be a kid.
Lockhart's my hometown. Grew up here, went to high school here. My name is Mike Black, and I own Terry Black's Barbecue, and we're located in Lockhart, Texas. The square, when I was growing up and I was in high school, is mainly a Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 business, insurance company, title companies, things like that.
There wasn't a lot to do. We got a movie theater when I was in grade school. Mark Black with Terry Black's Barbecue, and right now I'm in Austin, Texas. Now you still got the barbecue dotted around the square. Now you have art galleries and bars and different restaurants, and it's really changed.
Happy 90th
Thank you so much. I don't look a year over 88, do I?
sure don't.
It's all the smoke. My grandfather opened up in 1932, and then my mom and dad came back from World War II, and they stayed here. Late 1920s, the Great American Depression hit. 1929, stock market crashed, and so whether you were rich or poor or in between, everybody kind of went broke. My grandfather, Edgar Black Sr., he was a small farmer, rancher between Lockhart and Bastrop at a little town called Delhi, and he was trying to figure out, how am I going to support my family? His biggest asset were 50 head of cattle, and so he decided with a friend of his to open a meat market in Lockhart. They opened this meat market right here on Main Street. We still own the building, and each week he would process one of those cows, have the fresh meat, and then the fresh meat that was starting to get a little age on it, he would do a couple things with it. He would barbecue it, or he would make sausage. Within about 5 years, he split off to Northside Grocery Market and Black's Barbecue.
At the time, they were basically trying to not waste meat. So whatever they had, they cooked. My name's Keith Schmidt, and I own Kreuz Market in Lockhart, Texas. Started around 1875 with, I believe, the Swearingen family that opened up kind of a general store meat market. 1900, the Kreuz family, Charles Kreuz Sr., bought it out.
My dad was Smitty, and he went to work for them when he was about 13. He was born in 1919, so early 30s. He went to work for the Kreuz family, and then he purchased all of it in 1948. I'm Nina Schmidt Sales, and I'm the owner of Smitty's Market. There's a lot of history for my family in this building. I know which counter I fell off of and busted my head pretty good. Everybody was scared.
You look back at when barbecue started being served to the public, it was at these meat markets. If you wanted to eat barbecue, you were either going to go to a big public barbecue whenever it was held, or you were going to go to a meat market and eat it there. And the way that the barbecue is cooked at places like Smitty's and Black's and Kreuz, it's still very similar to the way it would have been cooked back then. You get barbecue on butcher paper. And I don't mean a tray lined with butcher paper. I mean a couple sheets of butcher paper, the meat goes on it, crinkle the edges, and that's what you carry to your table. And then you eat right off of that. That is your plate, right? You know, Lockhart itself, it's really a symbol of those roots of Texas barbecue. I mean, I'm doing research right now on the beginnings of Kreuz Market, and it's amazing to think about. Like, you can say, you know, Kreuz Market opened in 1900, right? Long time ago. Feels like a long time ago. Sounds like a long time ago. But you start doing research, and it's like, okay, well, the guy who sold it to the Kreutzes, he was like literally a cowboy on the cattle trails, like going up to Chisholm Trail. Like, these are the people who were running the meat markets in Lockhart at the time the Kreuz Market opened. Like, that's how long ago it was.
I do feel that I've been entrusted to take care of this building. I like old things, so maybe that's why. This is the old pit area, and that over there's the new pit area. We cook everything over the post oak wood, local post oak wood. Even our sausage, we don't have cookers, electric or gas cookers. We cook it all over the post oak wood. We do sauce our pork ribs, but the rest of the meat just has the seasoning and it's cooked on the local post oak wood. One reporter said there shouldn't be beans in this building and there shouldn't be sauce in this building. And we just decided, well, we're going to try it because people asked for it. They were asking for it at the other barbecue places also. They asked for forks, but we're not going to give in on that one. We're going to stay no forks for a while.
My grandfather started working there in 1935, and by 1948, one of the brothers had died, and the other brother and brother-in-law did not want to stay in it. So they offered to my grandfather to buy it out. And so in 1948 to now, it's been in the Schmidt family.
My brothers and I were raised as the barbecue industry. We watched our dad work very hard, very hard. Watching him was a real inspiration.
Their mother died when both of them were still relatively young. My father was 14, which would have made Nina 9. And my grandfather had some mental health issues because of it, losing a wife, being with 3 kids. And about 79 or 80, my grandfather came to my father's house. He living in Austin at that time, and said, well, I'm ready to get out of this. I'm ready to retire. So my father called his brother up and told him and said, if you ever wanted to do anything, it seems like now's the time. My father and uncle started getting their hands on everything and getting a handle on everything from finances to purchasing to just day-to-day everything. It turned around very quickly to the point of which my grandfather decided he might not be ready to retire. It was about 1.5 years total. My dad finally said, you know what, you're happy, then that's fine. I'm going back to food distribution. And my grandfather was just like, oh, fine, if you just want me to sell this.
Dad turned the business over to both of my brothers. I was a county clerk here, and I ran 6 times, 6 4-year terms. Basically, I got to know the community very well. After being in that office 28 years, I was ready to let go and come do barbecue.
The bad blood between Nina and Rick Schmidt happened after Edgar Schmidt had passed away.
When their dad passed away, he left the building to Nina, but he left the business to her brother. That created a landlord-tenant relationship was probably not the best idea.
Well, I don't want to talk about it because I'll probably say something, that might upset somebody. Every family has their problems.
They just never got along.
He didn't want to little sister coming in and ever telling him what to do, which I did not do. He had 7 years left on the lease. It was a long-term lease, and Dad had never upped the lease. And that's what I got personally hit with, was she doubled the rent. Well, if you don't raise the rent in 18 years, it just wasn't economical to keep this place going on what the rent was.
And so he started talking with his sister about buying or a new lease. And she simply said no. She wasn't interested in anything.
I just thought there could be some agreement that we could come to, because I left him alone. I didn't bother him, even though I owned the building. That things were said and evolved.
My father ended up getting a lawyer because she wouldn't talk to him. You know, I don't think she liked that he got an attorney involved.
I think deep down inside he might have been okay with building a new building. So why not build a new building and make it little sister's fault? You know, that kind of mentality. So
He said no. He was like, okay, I'll build something else. We had mayors of other cities coming here and going, I've got the perfect place for you to build. And he was like, nope, can't do that. If we're gonna do it, it's gonna be in Lockhart. It's gonna be as close to the other one as it could be. And I was just like, we're going down. He wanted it here, which is why we're a quarter mile away on the same road. This was not the ideal spot.
Rick moved the business out of the original building 1 year shy of 100 years, 99 years into Kreuz Market. Picks up and leaves, goes down the street and opens up Kreuz Market in a new building, leaving Nina with the building, an empty shell of a building.
when they moved out, I stayed away because I didn't want to be cameras in my face, but my husband and sons were here and watched what all was taken out.
He took coals from the last fire over there. Roy drug them down the road all the way down Commerce Street over here and started a new fire, so it's never been out.
Carried the coals to keep the coals burning, carried them down the street on national news. It was a hurtful time. Nobody likes to argue with family members. You love them, you know, you're supposed to support them. But this was something that I had to say no to.
I, at the time, told my dad, you know, you need to be careful what you say because this is not what's happening. And he was like, hey, look, you know, there's no bad publicity.
We had a county judge here that said any black ink is good ink. I don't know. I've had enough of the bad ink that I don't want that anymore.
It's a little intimidating.
Is it?
The slab of beef. I think I want the pickle on my ass.
Yes.
What is this guy?
This is the barbecue rib. And so then we have the sausage.
Oh, sausage.
Okay.
Drawn on a little shoulder cap to fill out a piece. He had some other tattoos here, and I've done a few of them on his arm, and so we're just trying to round out the piece here. We've already done his whole back, little by little.
Every time I come up here, I call Bob and I make an appointment with him. Me and my dad make it a yearly thing. We come eat barbecue, and we come up here about 6 times a year. We try to, and that's how I found this place. We came to eat barbecue. We were walking around the square, and I said, "Oh, look, a tattoo shop."
The central draw is barbecue, and just celebrating the culture of it and the culinary experience
And the community.
Right now we're searing fajitas. We're going to do fajita tacos. Right now it's about 15 minutes till VIP lets through, and so we get excited, but it's mixed emotions because now it's crunch time. Do we have everything ready? Are we delivering the best product? So it's just exciting, but at the same time it's kind of nerve-wracking. It's always an honor and a privilege, and it's exciting because we get to see our family, barbecue family.
The Texas Monthly Barbecue Festival in Lockhart, Texas. It's been there for the last 2 years. It'll be again as long as they want to have us, because it's a great place to be.
We've got some pork steaks that we smoke for our pulled pork. We have jalapeno sausage links, and we also have our pork belly.
To me, it's the best day of the year because all of our barbecue buddies that are in town in the same place, and we all just get to cook and have fun together.
It's really the easiest cross-state road trip that you could take to eat barbecue, because they're all right there in one location. We're on the square in Lockhart, right around the beautiful Caldwell County Courthouse, and we think of it more like a barbecue World's Fair.
It's better than Europe for sure.
I've been trying to come to this festival for probably a few years now, and I finally scored like VIP tickets.
Coming together here this weekend's a time for the barbecue people that are on our side of the fence to get together and visit, that we don't see each other from Lubbock to Port Lavaca to wherever. It's just a great time to be able to come together and visit and enjoy the barbecue world.
This is an event that you can't miss if you love barbecue and if you love having a good time.
What Texas Monthly Barbecue Fest means to me is a true celebration of the craft and the long history of barbecue in our state, and also what the present and future looks like. So it's just like a full immersion of energy and excitement and interest.
We certainly understand the power that we have to make a place incredibly well known, and really, in some cases, really change their fortunes. My job is to drive around the state, fly around the state, and try all the barbecue that I can. I'm Daniel Vaughn. I am the barbecue editor at Texas Monthly. We put out a top 50 barbecue list every 4 years. That, I think, is one of the things the Texas Monthly is most known for, and certainly in the barbecue realm, what we're most known for. So I guess really my job is like a 4-year scouting mission for that particular list. I'm also writing about barbecue and anything related to barbecue a couple of times a week. Put out new articles about different barbecue joints and about different subjects in barbecue. I'm originally from Ohio, and I went to college in New Orleans, 2 places, neither of which are really known much for barbecue. And I moved to Dallas in 2001. One of the first meals I had was at Peggy Sue Barbecue. It was this smoked brisket. I hadn't had brisket that wasn't corned beef brisket before then. They had these ribs, which I'd cooked ribs at home in the oven and on the gas grill and all that, but couldn't quite wrap my head around how you get this sort of texture out of a pork rib. I just became enamored with it almost instantly, and really started looking all over Dallas, Fort Worth, trying all the barbecue I could. Eventually going around the state, keeping a blog about it. Full Custom Gospel Barbecue was the name of my blog, where I reviewed all these places. After 500 or so reviews on that, Texas Monthly had reached out to see if I wanted to do a few stories for them, and at that time I begged to be on the 2013 tasting team for the top 50. I didn't realize it at the time. They're like, well, yeah, sure. Like, you want to come on and like subject yourself to this? Like, sure, go around the territory and eat all the barbecue you possibly can. In late 2012, I reached out to Jake Silverstein, who was then the editor-in-chief at Texas Monthly, and pitched him an idea of becoming a full-time barbecue writer for Texas Monthly. 5 months later, I had a contract and was quit my job in architecture and started writing about barbecue instead. You know, your usual path from architecture to barbecue journalism.
Daniel's been great for keeping barbecue in the public eye.
What he's done for Texas barbecue is amazing.
He is very dedicated to eating so much barbecue every single day that is impossible to do.
He draws a crowd, and there were people lined up behind the counter there, and they were all watching him eat.
I don't know if there's any other person outside of him or Aaron Franklin that have made Texas barbecue a worldwide phenomenon. Everyone wants him to be at their place. Everyone wants to please him in the sense of offering good barbecue. And No, he's a great guy. I think he helps everybody in the barbecue business, and it's amazing.
He is a true nerd of barbecue. He knows so much. I'm sure he gets a lot of hate or for people perceiving him as a powerful person who makes or breaks something, but I think he just has good intentions with everything that he does.
Just like a hot knife through pork cartilage.
The first time Dana Vaughn came out to the restaurant, it was a little nerve-wracking. Oh yes. Nowadays, when he comes by, we always know our food's gonna be really good, but so now it's a little bit more chill.
They've been doing it for a long time. They know what they're doing, and there's nothing about my presence that's going to change the way they serve. It's already cooked all the way anyway, so there's not much they can do about it now, right? The briskets are off the smoker. They've been resting overnight. The sausage is done. Like, there's nothing they can do to change whatever they were going to serve today anyway. Yeah, the bark's a little less crunchy than it was last time. I kind of like it this way.
Yeah, same.
Yes, he realizes what power he holds. It's not a crown he wears willingly, which is why he is the way he is. I mean, he's never going to be one of these food influencers you see making some ridiculous stunt on TikTok or anything like that.
I think it should really be a good balance. You get the smoke, you have the seasoning, you have the beef. And if it tastes like too much, if one of those overpowers everything, then you get, beef that just tastes like smoke, or it tastes like pot roast, or it just tastes like salt. So you have to have that balance. The latest estimate is about 2,000 barbecue joints in Texas. It is work. It does take a lot of travel. There's a lot of great meals that I get to eat. There's a lot more bad meals that I eat. One of my mantras is I eat the bad barbecue so you don't have to. It really began in August of 2024, and that's for the 2025 list. We all met in the office, all the people who had signed up to be tasters at Texas Monthly. I gave a presentation to them. We brought in Franklin Barbecue and we brought in Rudy's as a comparison so that people could understand what was good barbecue and what was maybe not incredible barbecue. Really examined each piece of meat, talked about the good qualities and the bad qualities, really just sort of explained what we're looking for. We're looking for certainly great meats and for great sides, desserts. We want to know about the atmosphere and try and get what you can about the story of each place. I think it was about 25 tasters this time, and each one of them gets a territory in the state. And they get a list of barbecue joints to visit. They also get a list of barbecue joints to not bother with. They're either ones that, we've gone to the last 5 times and they're not going to make the top 50. Places that I have had a meal so bad I'd be embarrassed if they were on the top 50 list. I have a lot of avoid places. There won't be a place in the top 50 that I haven't personally visited. And then to make the top 10, there'll be more visits, 3 visits at least. I think there is a greater meaning to being on the Texas Monthly Top 50. It's limited to 50 places. We know that there are more than 50 great barbecue places, but these are the 50 best of the best. You can carry that badge if you're on the top 50. You get to carry that badge for 4 years of being on that prestigious list.
There's nothing like being at the #1 barbecue restaurant. It's really special. It's only in this one part of the world where this is happening. And it's fun, chaotic, and at the same time, very difficult because the physicality of things is multiplied times 100. It's like a tightrope to walk on. I mean, if you're #1, you're #1 for 4 years. It changes you, it changes the restaurant for that period of time.
I assume every lens has grease on it. That was one of the biggest things that's ever happened to Franklin Barbecue. There you go. Oh my God, this is huge. I mean, that impact, and now it's even bigger than it was then because the scene's just gotten so much bigger and there's so many more eyes on Texas barbecue, and the Texas Monthly issue that's a big one, and that's a huge honor to get that #1 spot. It's a huge honor to be in the top 50 in general. I really hope we're in the top 50. So that makes me nervous, and that's really why I don't pay attention, because it just makes me feel anxious. One of the things you have to consider when like a barbecue place gets some huge surprise of like something huge like that, is that how are they going to be able to handle the extra load? Because some places, if they're not prepared for it, like, well, we can only cook so much. And then they start to make food that, maybe they're less proud of than some other days, and maybe they don't have the staff to handle it. So I think it's really useful to be like, okay, this is coming out, and if you think you're like a candidate for it, you better be ready, because if you're not already at capacity and don't already have the infrastructure to handle that kind of stuff, boy, it might be a doozy.
I moved to Austin from Brownsville, Texas in 2016 to go to UT, and I got a job at Franklin's, and I didn't think much of it. I just thought it was a good paying service industry job, and I had no idea that it was at the time the #1 barbecue spot. And I just thought that it was just a really good restaurant with lines out the door every day, and sort of just fell in love with the people in line, just being so enthusiastic and passionate about waiting for something and then receiving it and being filled with so much gratitude and like love and appreciation for what they just experienced. I never got to cook there, but that part of the experience got me hooked. Then the pandemic happened, and I was about to graduate UT, and that was the moment where I had to make a tough decision of, should I pursue my technical career, or should I pursue this thing that keeps scratching my brain that I keep going towards?
How you want to do this? Want me to assist you, make the briskets? Let's just do it together. We'll both load at the same time.
It's a labor of love.
We'll tag team and knock it out fast.
It's just fire, smoke, and love and passion. It's non-stop. We have somebody here manning a fire, tending it, doing it the old school way, the way that I was taught to do it, and the way that we'll always do it. We're old school, traditional Central Texas barbecue.
They call it the Holy Trinity. Brisket, ribs, and sausage is kind of the original staple. It takes tweaks. If it's hotter or colder outside, or it's windy or rainy or whatever, you just constantly have to tweak how you're doing things, but the menu items are the exact same. Our cooking process is 24/7. I mean, the guys here, they go through everything night and day. The organization it takes, but mainly the willpower just to push through. So briskets cook anywhere from 10 hours in the summertime if it's real humid and hot outside to 14, 15 hours in the wintertime when it's real dry and cold. In Lockhart, if you cook 10 or 20 briskets back in the day, that was a good day. Now we're going through 300, 400, 500 briskets on any given day. We wanted to open our own barbecue place because that's what we knew. That's what we grew up around. That was our family name. We lived in Lockhart, and it was taken away.
All right, and did the twins, did they stir the pot? Did they trash talk me?
It was a tumultuous 3 years, to say the least.
My parents were very great parents, hard workers, very smart people, always a little bit ahead of their time. And they told me when I was about the 4th or 5th grade, you cannot be in the business until you go to college. So I went to college and did well. They said you cannot be in the business until you went to some professional school. So I went to law school and got my doctorate in law. And then you have to have a career away from Lockhart before we're going to let you be in the business. So I had a long time legal career.
When I went to college and graduated in 2010, the markets were kind of down. I was a finance major, and I said, man, I need a job. And I didn't have any money, so I moved back home and was living with the parents. And I reached out to my grandfather, who was the owner of Black's Barbecue at the time, and said, hey, do you have a spot available for me?
Kent retired as an attorney from the state. His family lived here in Austin. He started coming around a little bit more. Restaurants started doing pretty well.
My uncle was the general manager there, not the owner. He was the general manager there. He wasn't too happy with me coming on board. I ended up, going in and working for about 3 years there at Black's Barbecue.
Yeah, we were all a little surprised when later in life they decided they wanted to get involved in the business. But like I said, it's a free country. If they want to do that, that's fine.
My uncle always looked at me as kind of a spy, like I was watching over him in a sense, which wasn't the case. He's an ex-attorney, a very egotistical maniac. He didn't like the fact that he didn't necessarily hire me and that he didn't have, ultimate control. She's always been a control freak his entire life.
When they were younger, they didn't have any interest in working here. I'm just being honest. They didn't work here.
My uncle and I, we butted heads from day one because I didn't approve of the way he approached cooking. It didn't jive with what my grandparents had taught me. It didn't jive with the original recipes. They'll cook a lot of stuff on rotisseries in the back. They'll come and they'll refrigerate it, and then eventually they'll finish some stuff off on the pit, or they'll finish it all off on those rotisseries, and it's just mass production over there, right? So their goal is to never sell out. So that means you've got products left over at the end of the day. You're going to reheat it the next day. To my knowledge, that's what they're doing now. So that's something my grandfather would never approved of. And it's things like that he was trying to implement and do that I didn't necessarily agree with.
We cook low and slow. We cook 12, 13, 14 hours, around 250 degrees. Cook with local wood post oak that we have aged for 6 months to a year. My business plan is very simple. 3 words. Don't change anything.
I started to notice that I really liked my coworkers. I really liked what I was doing. I really liked the barbecue business, and it truly was in my blood. So I decided this is something I want to do. I just can't do it under him.
Ultimately, it all culminated in 2012. Kent got control of everything. Terry and Michael were fired.
I think it's a little ironic that an attorney out of Austin, all of a sudden comes down and gets into the barbecue business and wants to deem himself a pitmaster, probably having never cooked a brisket his entire life, but to each their own.
They wanted to open a restaurant in Austin.
We had some conversations with the rest of my family, and we had some conversations with my grandmother and my grandfather.
My dad said, well, hey, can we open up Black's Barbecue Austin? My grandma originally said yes.
So it was big news that this historic barbecue joint, Black's Barbecue, opened in 1932, was going to open a second location in Austin. And when the announcement came out, people in barbecue certainly were perking their ears up, oh wow, I guess it really is, Austin is the center of barbecue now, because even Black's Barbecue wants to open up 45 minutes away.
My uncle disapproved of that, and he wasn't going to let that happen, and the attorney in him made sure that didn't happen.
Then my uncle, who was president of the corporation, filed a cease and desist against us.
So we started getting all kinds of, threatening legal notices.
They had filed with Secretary of State's office using the name Black's Barbecue, and they never had permission to use the original Black's Barbecue. My parents own that name. I was never asked about whether or not they were going to open a place in Austin. That just kind of appeared.
It didn't take long before Kent Black basically said, no, you're not opening up a second Black's Barbecue. There will never be a second Black's Barbecue while my parents are alive.
The statement that I never wanted a Black's Barbecue in Austin, that's news to me. The problem was they called it Black's Barbecue when they first opened. My parents said, okay, that's where we got to draw the line here. That's fine, you're opening, but you cannot call it Black's Barbecue. And we asked them nicely to, and then we had to send a letter, and then that's when they changed the name.
My brother, sister, and I named this place after my father, so it's Terry Black's Barbecue.
Terry is an accountant by trade. He has been in the barbecue business his entire life, but Terry's not out in the pits cooking, right? From day one, that's been my brother and I, Mike and Mark Black.
So Terry's gonna be the head honcho here, and we're gonna have this new school barbecue, right? Modern way of cooking barbecue. And it's all gonna be in offset smokers, gonna be all cooked with wood, and they're gonna really try and compete with a lot of the new names in Austin.
Post oak, they'll buy it. But if it's like live oak and mesquite and stuff, they won't buy it because they like the post oak.
If people use different wood, it's not going to turn out the same.
Everything on the east side of 35 is post oak. Everything on the west side of the highway is live oak. So you have to stay on the east side between Austin, Gonzales, and down to get the post oak. Oh, it's every day. Yeah. Sometimes we take the weekends off, mainly during the winter time. We've been doing it with our family since 1974 with Kreuz Meat Market.
They bring in the wood and they stack it. We've got these rows measured out, so we know how many cords go in each row, and they come in and tell us, hey, we did this. We could come out here and see what they've loaded in and know that, oh, yep, they brought us 5 cords. So it's kind of a checks and balances. We don't have trouble with them. Anytime there's been less or more, we always make up good for it. The drier it gets, the better it burns. We let it sit and age for as little as 6 months to sometimes 18 months, and that gets it dried out. The oils will evaporate out, and so we've got our own dry wood that's been sitting here that we've aged. We know where it's been and what it's been doing. We've got 2 rows out here. Some of the newer pits we've gotten from mill scale use a lot less wood than our other pits inside. We're able to use less wood, which saves money, but also lets the wood age a little bit more. We don't want an oily, smoky fire getting on there. We just want the smoke from the wood, and that's aging it ourselves out here allows us to do that.
My brother said he was going to go ahead and move, and he built a real nice building, 1/4 mile north.
Literally hauling a pail of coals from the old pits at Smitty's down the street to light the first fires at Kreuz Market. It was a very symbolic move of like, we are moving the family fire. That's symbolism right there.
The rumors around Lockhart, again, small town, just went, and, oh, Rick did this to her and stole this from her, and she did this she did this to her father anyway, and nobody knows what really happened.
It was a very public feud. Not only did Kreuz Market move, but they took most of the employees as well.
It was one of those deals where there was no right answer, and this was the answer. You're sitting in it right now. As you can imagine, it rained and there was freezes and everything possible to slow it down. And when we did open up in this open air we're sitting in right now, they were still working on it when we opened the first day. And that made everyone very unpleasant to be around because my father was making a huge change and financial move for a 51-year-old. And he thought he was on his way to retirement. No, he's throwing money into this whole new thing. There are certain things he did that I was just like, what are you thinking? Keeping the line separate, the meat line out here, and then go in there and pay again to that. People just whine about that all the time, even though it's not that big of a deal. He did that because he wanted the same feel as it was over there. He didn't want people to come over here and, oh, they changed everything. This isn't Kreuz anymore. So that's why a lot of it looks the same, has the same ordering procedures.
Nina ended up opening Smitty's in the old building in 1999, so now you have these two places.
There were some rough years there. About, I'd say 3 at least, the first years getting going. Because, you know, Kreuz, that's the big name in barbecue is Kreuz. I just couldn't see taking these walls and trying to renovate them and make them new. No, and then my brother and I, he sold me the original counter and he sold me some stuff that was on the inventory that they owned. So we worked that out.
I can tell you 100% there are people that still go there just for the building. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with her barbecue. I've had it, it's perfectly fine. But they go because, oh, we went over there and would sit upstairs in that dining room over there, and every time I go there, I remember my grandpa. And that's why they go there.
This was the original one, and this is where my family used to come to. So we enjoy it. It's a nice memory lane.
The fire in the hallway is super cool. I had heard about that, so I was excited to see it.
I know that the building helps us a whole lot. People come to see the building, and I love that. I enjoy that.
Smitty's is old school, right? So great first stop. The other ones are really famous and they are really good, but we heard that this one's better.
I know there's a
That
big
was my
competition
brother.
between
Yeah, that was
which one's first.
the sizzling siblings, the feud, brother and sister. Yeah,
That's awesome.
I'm here, still here.
Well, back in '99 when we opened up, there were sides that consisted of like a pickle and a piece of cheese or a piece of onion. There wasn't beans, potato salad, coleslaw, and cream corn and all that. It was about the meat and get it on butcher paper. You didn't need any of those sides. You didn't need sauce to put on the meat. It's all about the meat.
Ooh, man, this is where I'm going to get myself into trouble. The reason that feud went on so long and I think was so well publicized is because they both put out very similar barbecue. Very similar menu, very similar quality.
Out-of-towners who crunch their way across the gravel parking lot, past the post oak stoked fire at the back of the red brick building, and into the big old bare bones dining room, might not realize that anything has changed here.
We had a couple of lean years is what I call them.
My husband Jim, he was still teaching school and I was still county clerk at the courthouse. We had been through some real negative press for, quote, changing Kreuz Market, making it go down. But, it was not, I hate to say it wasn't all our fault. It was just a family disagreement and it evolved the way it was. But people didn't want Kreuz Market to change. The name on the building is now Smitty's Market and not Kreuz. The brisket at this location, at this Lockhart destination, is still primo. The coarsely ground handmade sausage is sublime, and the pork chops are thick, sweet, and delicately smoky. Those in the know spring for the succulent, juicy, boneless prime rib. Now 3 years old, Smitty's is named for Edgar Smitty Schmidt, the father of owner Nina Sells. Although the restaurant's first few months were up and down, it seems to have hit its stride under management and pitmaster John A. Fullilove, Sells' son. We opened Smitty's in 1999, September of 1999. And this young man worked his heart out. He was always there. And his friends knew he loved it. He had found his place. He just knew every inch of it. And the workers knew that too.
He called me and he said, you know, I think that we're going to be mentioned in Texas Monthly. Yeah, they come in and they actually did that photo shoot of John in the hallway. And yeah, we knew that something was up.
But we had no idea. We thought, oh, might get a picture in Texas Monthly. We never dreamed it was going to be the front cover. Of course, that's his smile. That's his typical everyday smile. He smiled a lot and enjoyed life.
He had this huge smile on his face. If you're getting shot for a cover, then there's a good chance that good things are going to be said about your barbecue joint.
My cousin John, he's in his apron, and I have that memory burned in my head, and I was happy for them.
The magazines are around me, but I haven't sat down and read that until now. The brisket being as good as the predecessor. I think I went, wow, cut that, please. This young man did it for 13 years nonstop and wouldn't take a vacation. John had already had some issues where he couldn't do what he had done in early life. He just had some medical problems. I bought that building next to the market. I thought that's perfect because Jerry's right there in the wood pile with the barbecue pits, and they could help me keep an eye on him. John liked barbecue, and he did not take good care of his body, and he had some medical issues that developed from that. He got to where I think he kind of gave up. He passed away in January of 2023. Jim passed away September of 2022, and they were about 3 or 4 months apart.
Jim was a teacher when I was in high school, and so I knew him. He was a great guy. And watching him get worse, it was kind of the textbook thing where all of a sudden he had an uptick, and I kind of thought to myself, oh man, this may be the final burst, and it was. It was horrible because he was a great guy, and especially wonderful to and for her. I mean, she lost her true partner.
You worry about the things you do have control over, because I didn't have control over what happened to both of them. So you just have to get up and keep going, and that's what we've done. I've tried to keep the market going. It's been 2 years now, and we're doing okay.
2 medium dry.
Okay.
And then a slice of brisket.
How many? Are you eating here or at
To go.
I don't blame barbecue. I mean, people have the choice to overeat, and he was quite large when he passed away. But no, I don't blame barbecue. I don't drink, but I don't blame the alcohol on the alcoholic. They are the ones that need to change. A lot of people enjoy barbecue, and they're just fine. Yes, you have the doctors. I remember Rick always said that if, doctor says he has to watch his cholesterol, he'd probably go find another doctor. Kidding, things like that. But yeah, you just have to do everything in moderation.
We're always throwing sparks in some way, so firing up cutting torches and cutting steel. It takes a lot of time and hours and experiences and happy accidents and making mistakes and learning through all those things and applying that process to what you're doing. We're at our headquarters, Mill Scale Metal Works in Lockhart, Texas, and our business is metal fabrication and manufacturing of culinary cooking equipment, specifically custom offset smokers and live fire grills.
They built the first smokers that Goldie's has after cooking on Goldie's smokers and after cooking on some of their other things. In my opinion, those are the best. They are just so perfectly crafted in their welds where there is no mistakes, no shortcuts. I love to like run my finger around the welds and just like see like the perfect welds. And particularly, I needed our smoker to be a mill scale smoker.
Do want to remind everybody we do follow the same pricing model as most Texas barbecue restaurants do.
We're here in line at Goldie's Barbecue, the #1 barbecue joint in Texas, at least according to Texas Monthly, until our new list comes out.
$26.85.
There was a horse in the street?
Yeah. There's a horse. Yeah.
I mean, you don't get this stuff in the
Kinda
Franklin
felt
line,
a bit
right?
like Ireland
You
for
gotta
a
come
while,
out to
eh?
Kennedale, Texas. Andy was kind enough to come in from Ireland, all the way from Ireland, just to come and stand in line for me. For what, like an hour and a half? You got here at 8?
He paid me enough money, yeah.
You got here at 8? Don't worry.
8 o'clock.
I'm going to buy your lunch, don't worry. Everybody who visited in the first year or so probably went in with no expectations, just like, oh, well, there's a new barbecue joint outside of Fort Worth. Yeah, you drive past the landfill and look for the barbecue sign, like hand-painted. Not hand-painted nicely, just BBQ, right? So you got the red check tablecloth that helps you line up to get everything straight. In 2021, the cover behind me was leaked a few days before the list came out, and so people knew that it was Goldie's.
We found out when everybody found out. So saw #1, and we previously worked at some other spots that were on the top 10. So we knew it was going to be a pretty big rush, but the next Friday, it was pretty crazy. The line was like all the way down the street. There was no parking.
Like from my experience at Goldie's, we were cooking about 5 to 10 briskets for the weekend. And after the list came out, it multiplied to 150.
Like she was working there when Goldie's made #1 and then went off to open Barbs.
I decided to move to Dallas to start working at Goldie's Barbecue. I just knew that was something that was going to be very rich to me, being there and learning.
She came here during COVID, really just trying to learn how to, do what we're doing. And we just put all our effort in, training Chuck up, and it's really not surprising to see how well she's doing. She's a really hard worker, so yeah, not surprised at all.
Our menu here at Barbs, I liked for it to have somewhat that comforting flavors, a little spicy, a little acidic, and that shows through our Molotov pork ribs, the green spaghetti.
If you haven't had green spaghetti, it's like they take poblanos and jalapenos and cilantro, cream cheese, sour cream, blend it all up into the sauce. So instead of a cheese sauce over macaroni, it's a blend of that sauce over spaghetti.
I was just so lucky and just so perfect that no one had really put that on their barbecue menu yet.
Barbs really symbolizes modern Texas barbecue and a new way of looking at barbecue. At Barbs, it's like, well, why not have lamb chops? Why not black beans instead of pinto beans like everybody else does? I mean, she puts lime zest on top of the ribs. I mean, that's the first place that I'd seen anybody do that. It all works so well together. I mean, that is like a chef's sensibility being brought to barbecue.
I was always surrounded by really, really good food. My parents, they're born in Mexico, don't know how to read, they don't know how to write. They worked like minimum wage jobs to support a family of before. Being the first one born here sort of established this another layer of realizing that I have an advantage over my sisters to make something bigger. People in the valley are nurtured from very young to work really hard because a lot of the population there are first generation.
We're in Central Texas, but she's from Brownsville, and our side of the family's from the valley, so you kind of have that valley flavor in the barbecue. You don't really see that a lot of places.
They're still doing a lot of traditional stuff. They still have the brisket, beef ribs, pork ribs, and sausage, and they just have their own twist on it. I think it's cool. I think it's needed. I think it's fun. And it's got new eyes on everybody else. It helps everybody.
Within a week of them opening, they've already had 2 national publications talking about how great they are.
James Beard for Best New Restaurant. That one is really, really cool because it's like the whole United States. And out of that list, we were the only restaurant nominated from Texas.
They had to deal with those high expectations from the start without really any sort of runway.
We have lots of friends that told us we've got to go to Barbs. When we walked up to the town square, the line was wrapped around the building.
I think, hour and a half, we were in line and it was worth the wait.
Well, obviously I'm a little biased when it comes to quality, but I will say this, they put out a very, very good product, and all of the praise that they've gotten, they definitely deserve.
I've been over there and had their meat, which was great, and their sides, and they're good, hardworking people. Was so happy to see them come with the all-female team. I mean, come on. I know what my mother contributed to this restaurant. Without her, we wouldn't be here today.
The thing about barbecue is that it has changed a lot within the past 5 years. There was just so many secrets for no reason, and there were so many walls. Now it's very different. It's everyone's very open about what they do. The power dynamic was once very different, and it's very cool to see that things are changing.
It's not going to be much of an evolution. I think what's here is what's here. I'm not going to go stand in a line for all that, especially on one of our busiest days.
It was good. It was good. To each their own. When you start adding the spices, I taste it, so.
When we first got open, my brother and I were just grinding it out. We worked for about 400 days straight. We were doing 16 to 18 hours a day on average, getting there at 2:30 in the morning and getting briskets all in the pits and running them throughout the day until my brother got there to take over, and then getting up front and cutting meat and, doing everything involved in the barbecue. So that grind, it'll stick with me for the rest of my life, and it's something I'll never forget.
Hey, I'm doing today. We always wanted it to be an experience. So we put the pits out in the parking lot. We want people to see it old school style, just like when you walk into Smitty's or Kreuz. You'll see the guys sweating in there or freezing in there, and you'll know kind of what goes into it before you even get to the chopping block.
I remember when I first wrote about the controversy, I said, well, I would just as soon drive 45 minutes south to Lockhart, go eat at the original. Then Terry Black's got really good, and they got really good really fast.
This is one of the busiest restaurants in the United States. We'll go through about 5,000 people on a Saturday. Each week, we're probably going through, I'd say, around 2,500 briskets at this one location.
Terry Black's gets a lot more attention these days from people who are traveling the state trying to find a great meal for barbecue than Black's Barbecue does.
Even before we ever got Terry Black's Barbecue open, my uncle and the attorney in him constantly firing off lawsuits at us. There's been an ongoing lawsuit or threat of lawsuit, since day one of operations. That's kind of his MO, is to just keep firing lawsuits at us for whatever reason.
My dad owns a property just south of town towards Luling. He has a tire shop there that he leases to, and there was a billboard on there. Well, we told Ken, hey, since we're no longer involved in Black's Barbecue, we're gonna put our billboard up, so you need to take yours down.
It was a sign that I owned, and I had the permits.
He cut the poles down at the base.
Yeah, I took the sign down because it was my sign.
We filed an anti-slap lawsuit against him.
Signs are personal property. It was my sign, and so I took down my sign.
Anyway, we got a new billboard, brand new, that he paid for. I think it was somewhere around $40,000, give or take.
The settlement said they were not supposed to discuss the case, and so I'm respecting the settlement order that says to not discuss the case.
I think the confusion between the brands is a detriment to us.
Nearly $250,000 in tips are owed to about 300 workers at a local barbecue chain.
The low for me was probably when Black's Barbecue got involved in that tip scandal.
It's the U.S. Labor Department making that announcement, saying the bosses at Black's Barbecue illegally took the money, specifically Black's Barbecue Inc., Kent Black's Lockhart Barbecue Inc., and New Braunfels Barbecue LLC. The Labor Department said it found the employer gave a portion of the tips to restaurant managers, and that, it says, is against federal law.
It had nothing to do with us, but it directly affected us because so many people made the confusion between the brands. So people were pointing the finger at us saying they don't pay their employees tips, which we had to quickly go on the defense and say, no, that's not the case. That's these guys, totally different brands. On our marquee out in front of our restaurant, Terry Black's Barbecue, we put something along the lines of 230,353 reasons to come to Terry Black's Barbecue.
They have to find their own way. You can't tell anybody anything when it comes to stuff like that. I mean, you see it every day. Go look at Black's original location there on Main Street and look across the street. And I'll tell you all you need to know. Think the sign's big enough? That's nasty. Terry Black's Barbecue headquarters office directly across the street from the original Black's Barbecue location. Yes, that's pretty big and bright right there, and the message is clear.
I bought the building they're using, and Terry refused to pay rent. So I was paying his insurance, his taxes. I was getting no rent and doing maintenance. So I think most people would agree that's not a good situation.
My dad's been officing out of that space for 30 years. Kent now owns the building. He bought it from my grandmother. Kent's been suing my father there for at least 5 years or so, trying to get my dad out of the building.
But he had a long-term lease, so he's not able to kick him out until the lease is over.
And that's the Terry Black's headquarters. We're based in Lockhart.
I love seeing it across the street because it just eats him alive. It makes him so mad. Him and his son and his stepson and his little minions come outside and they cry about it. They get so upset.
I think it was overkill, and after a few days of seeing it, I don't even notice it anymore. We have recently settled the lawsuit.
Yeah, it's unfortunately, attorneys are the only ones winning in this situation.
Oh, I decided to stay out of that one a long time ago. There was somebody that said, you know, they're really squabbling in that family. And I went, oh gosh. I said, it happens. And my nieces were with me and they just died laughing.
By the time 2017 rolled around and we were doing a new top 50, well, Terry Black's made it on the list. And Black's Barbecue and Lockhart did not. Then Terry Black's has gone on since then to go open up a spot in Dallas. Now they've opened in Waco. The biggest splash they made was going to Lockhart.
I don't quite understand why he decided to come to Lockhart and compete against his mother and father's restaurant.
They're like 2 blocks from Black's Barbecue. They're also just 45 minutes from their Austin location. From a business standpoint, this is not a wise decision, right? To go open up in Lockhart. It was a message they were trying to send.
They had put a billboard sign up talking about them being the original and kind of trying to differentiate themselves, which was fine, but ultimately we felt like it was kind of a stab at us.
You know, to each their own, right? He chooses to have, you know, I don't know how many billboards he has, but it's an astronomical amount of billboards with his name plastered all over it. So if that makes you feel better about yourself and it really drives your ego, then so be it, dude. Good luck to you, man. They want to do MTV Crib style. They want us to walk around and show them the house and introduce. No, you got this. This is my Uncle Carl. I don't know how else to explain it. Lockhart legend. There's my little one right there. Michael's little daughter. Here, give me your dad. Birthday, say hello. Little cute. This is Jimmy. He's a legend. Oh, you know Terry, right? Hey, Terry Black, the legend.
We call it the Christmas house because obviously we still have the Christmas lights up outside. We're fixing to take those down though. They're not going to stay up year round though. They were off when I got here, but I turned them back on just for fun. It's great to have all the family together and everybody gets along most of the time. It's a joy. The question, as you get older, you appreciate all this stuff more than when you're younger. You kind of take it for granted, but no longer. Well, today we're celebrating my brother-in-law's birthday. He is, how old is Bob? 67?
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
We're celebrating Mr. Black, Mr. Edgar Black's birthday, which is on the 3rd of November. And he would be 99 years old.
My grandma hasn't talked to us one time in the last 10 years. She's never been to one of our restaurants. It sucks. I still love her. I wish she'd see our place. Wish she'd be happy for our success. But hasn't happened.
They have never reached out to her on Mother's Day, her birthday, Christmas, any of that. And she's 93 years old. She's at home. She's not driving around in a car. She's homebound. So she would love to talk to them. They know where she lives.
Oh, it's a wonderful feeling. I just wish we could see all these people more often, but
we do.
We see a lot of nice folks, and this place fills up every weekend. But this weekend it has a little bit more festivity, I guess you'd say.
I'd rather have the family be all good and everything, but that's not the situation we're in no matter what we do.
In no way, shape, or form do I ever see there being a kumbaya moment where we come together and our buddy.
Let me just say, the day Michael and Mark were born in San Antonio, I was at the hospital. The day they played Little League baseball and Little League All-Star games, I was at the games. We're family. I have been a supporter of those young men their whole life, and I can continue to be. I wish them the best.
So we're doing a little catering here for my uncle's birthday. Of course, we've got Terry Black's barbecue. We've got a full bar.
The same kind of deal with different players. You know, working with family is not ideal because somebody has to be the boss. And I don't think it was a relationship that was particularly close and all of a sudden, you know, best friends become bitter enemies. I think it's just how things happen.
It's a good family. But in the barbecue business, they've had their disagreements also. Well, the lesson that I learned is that I would have preferred to have handled our private moments, you know, of what was being said between us and not being given to a reporter or a newspaper person, you know, with either magazines, newspapers, or whatever. Just keep it to ourselves. But then, got to look at it as that black ink too.
Rick said one time that he was kind of glad it happened, the feud and all, because he would have never had the nerve to build what he did.
It still feels like he's here in a way. And I've got their picture in there. His table's back here where he used to sit and drink beer with his buddies and stuff. In my family, my stepmother went in 18, my dad in 19, my stepfather in 20. With my stepmother, that was his true partner. That was who he was meant to be with. He died 3 weeks to the day shy of a year of her dying. He broke his heart. When he died, I called her and I said, hey, why don't you come down to the funeral home? I want you involved in this. And that really, really touched her and showed her that I had absolutely no bad feelings at all.
I think the world of Keith, and we're family again. I feel like we're family. We try to get together at Thanksgiving or Christmas. My oldest brother's daughters, one of them lives here because she bought Rick's home and renovated it. So, she keeps us all in touch.
I don't think I would have opened this restaurant with my family members. It would be too much drama. I think, I love my sisters and my brothers, but I don't think they would have the same passion as me. And at the end of the day, we're gonna fight because they don't have the same passion as me. I think at first they were a little bit sad to see me go into the food service industry because that's where they were and they didn't get far from that. I don't think they realized that it actually helped me get really far.
Okay, you ready? 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, my mom came for the grand opening and she just couldn't stop crying, and I couldn't see her because then I would be crying and I wouldn't be able to work. I think they're really proud of me, and they're always trying to share with me food recipes and stuff. So I think they love that I ended up here.
In 2021, we had our top 50. Then 4 years later, we'll have it. It is like the Olympics of barbecue. Criteria is you've got to cook great barbecue.
I don't worry about the rankings. We've been here 92 years. We're not going anywhere.
They do a good job of getting the ones that are struggling.
I stopped worrying about it.
Both Smitty's and Kreuz were in the collective top 5 in 1997 and in 2003. Smitty's last made the barbecue list in 2008. Black's last made the barbecue top 50 in 2013. Kreuz in 2017.
When the Texas Monthly list comes out, I definitely expect to be on it.
I think Barbs will be on the list.
If there is a list, of course we are going to try to be the best.
Goldie's got 3. Leroy got 2.
There we are. Yes. Barbs B Q.
Barbs B Q.
Before you even take a bite, you can tell Barbs B Q is bringing a new kind of energy to the Lockhart scene. Instead of smoke, blackened walls, you'll find pink accents and cartoon-related decor. After opening 2 years ago, Barbs quickly earned praise from the likes of Bon Appetit, the New York Times, and Michelin. Because the joint's so hyped and open so few hours, expect to spend time waiting in line in the charming downtown square. Pitmaster Chuck Charney-Chard brings her Brownsville roots to the menu, giving traditional meats a bit of a kick. The ribs are Serrano glazed, and the staff will zest fresh limes over them as they're plated at the counter. The sausage is fajita flavored. Barbs B Q describes it as a more Mexican-style jalapeno cheddar. And don't forget to order a side of the comforting green spaghetti, noodles drenched in a creamy poblano sauce. Our first top 50 list. A lot of these top 50 barbecue places got inspiration from Lockhart, and I think it's nice that we kind of brought that list back home over here.
I think Lockhart absolutely deserves to be the barbecue capital of Texas.
To have 7 successful barbecue restaurants, it's pretty cool to see.
We tell everybody, go to all of them, choose your own, make your decision.
I have employees that have been here decades. Roy, my pitmaster, has been here since '87. You've got generations that do this. Smitty's has it too, Black's has it too.
It absolutely deserved it at the time it got that recognition. I mean, these were some of the oldest barbecue joints in Texas, and it's still deserving.
I think it's going to be here for a long, long time. If barbecue disappears in Lockhart, then there ain't no barbecue anywhere.